Hey, Ed, you want to start off?
Yep. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Angad Singh, and I'll be acting as a moderator for tonight's meeting. And I welcome you all to the virtual annual general meeting for Pscc 826. With us, we have Mr. Brian Horlick, who's a senior partner with Horlick Levitt Dillella, a law firm specializing in condominium law. Before I hand over the floor to Brian, I'd briefly like to explain to all the unit owners as to how they can participate in tonight's meeting. Let me go to the next slide. Yep. So there are two ways of doing that. The first is through the raise hand feature. All of you might be able to see a raise hand icon located on your screens. Its location depends on the device that you're using. For some, it's located at the top of your screen, and for some, it's located at the bottom. Now you can use this icon to make a motion, second a motion, or notify me that you have a question. For the people who have dialed into the meeting, they can dial *9 to raise their hands and *6 to unmute themselves. For the unit owners who don't have a proper functioning microphone or who do not wish to speak, can type in their questions in the Q&A section using the Q&A button. Just remember to state a full name and unit number whenever you're making a motion, seconding a motion, or asking a question. You also might be able to see a chat section located on your screens. Please refrain from using the chat section as same has been disabled for the night and we will not be monitoring it. Thank you. Over to you, Brian.
Thanks very much, Angad. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the annual general meeting for Peel Standard Condominium Corporation 826. I want to welcome everyone. First of all, I'd like to introduce our virtual head table. We have all sorts of celebrities here tonight. Akin Oladeji, give us a wave. How are you tonight? Nice of you to join us. Board member. Daljit Singh, are you here?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Junaid Khan.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Nadeem Khan.
Hello, everyone.
Sarosh Iqbal.
He just stepped out for a second.
Stepped out? Okay, so he'll be back shortly. Those are your board members. We have the owner's auditor here, Stephen Chesney from Yale PGC. Welcome, Stephen.
Good evening.
We have Kim Mullins doing the minutes for tonight's meeting. Welcome. And Angad Singh, who is hosting tonight's meeting on behalf of HLD Meetings, and he will be acting as well as scrutineer. Now, under the Condominium Act, in order to move forward with an owners meeting, including an annual general meeting, you need to have a quorum. And a quorum is a minimum of 25% of the units in the corporation. There are 458 units in the corporation. 25% of that is 115. You need a minimum attendance of 115 units to move forward with the meeting. I would like to advise that we have received 108 valid proxies, 86 electronic registrations for a total of 194 units in attendance, which exceeds our minimum quorum requirement. I'm therefore calling the meeting to order. Under the Condominium Act, the corporation is required to send out a preliminary notice of meeting, and this is a notice that sets out the approximate of your AGM. It sets out the approximate agenda, and there is a specific provision that says that if you wish to be considered as a candidate for election to the board of directors, you are to provide your contact information to the corporation, and they will put your resume into the package in addition to a mandatory statement of disclosure. After the preliminary notice of meeting goes out, and that's a 20-day notice, the actual meeting package goes out with the official notice of meeting, and that package has to go out at least 15 days before the date of the meeting. We have spoken with management, and we are advised that all necessary requirements under the Condominium Act with respect to service have been adhered to. I am therefore calling the meeting to order. In your package, item number 5, you will see minutes, and that's the minutes of the annual general meeting from December the 1st, 2020. I will be asking for a motion to accept those minutes, to adopt them as presented, unless there are any errors or omissions in the minutes. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes? If there are, you can raise your virtual hand, and we will call on you to address any errors or omissions.
And I see no raised hands, nothing in the Q&A section.
All right, we're going to ask therefore for a motion to adopt the minutes as presented, and we would like to get a seconder as well. Can someone please make the motion?
To make the motion, you can raise your hands or type it in the Q&A section.
Any owner, including owners of units by board members, anyone can make this motion?
Sarosh Iqbal.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. I see we have a seconder.
Daljit Singh, 2613.
And did you get that? We've got a motion and a seconder.
Yep. So I'll be launching the poll.
All right. We have a poll. If you're in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, please click yes. And if you're opposed, you'll click no.
I'll give it a few more seconds. Ran, I've got 27 in favor, 1 against.
All right, and the motion has been passed. We're moving on to item number 6. At this point in the agenda, we will be hearing from your auditor. And I say your auditor because the auditor represents all of the unit owners. All of the owners are his clients. The auditor does not represent the condominium management company, does not represent the board of directors, and does not represent the condominium corporation. All unit owners are the clients of the auditor. In your package, you have the audited financial statements for the year ending February the 28th, 2021. I will be handing the floor over to Stephen Chesney, who is your auditor. He will be presenting the audited financial statements, after which point we will open the floor to questions specifically on the audit. I am pleased to introduce Stephen Chesney. He is one of the preeminent condominium auditors in Ontario. Stephen.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you again this year, and it's certainly a pleasure to present these financial statements. Your condominium has always been financially very sound, and this is another year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the screen, and I'm going to bring these financial statements right into your living room. I invite you to sit back and relax, and let's discuss this and enjoy the good results. Your year end is February 28th, so I just want to remind you that this only goes for 1 year ending that day. Anything from March 1st on, that'll be covered in next year's report. So the auditor's report is page 2 and 3, and I'm just going to spend a quick minute to remind you the auditor works for the owners, as Brian mentioned, but it's important to understand we are not here essentially to evaluate how the board or the management perform. Our job is specific. We take the books and records from management and we audit them. We ask for audit and evidence and support in order to let you know whether or not the numbers are accurate. And if everything goes well, you get our signature and this, which is a clean opinion. And that's very important. And as far as I can remember, it's always been that way at this condominium corporation. So that should give you some comfort before we even turn the page. So let's take a look at the numbers, everyone. Here are your assets, and they have grown from 4.9 to over 5.4 million. It's gone up $500,000. And most of your assets are cash, which is monies in a bank account or investments. If they invest your money, the Condo Act right now says you can invest it, board, but it can only be safe investments. We want to protect the owners. So at this point, you're only allowed GICs, term deposits, or a bond that's guaranteed by the government or province of Canada. That is it. No stocks, no mutual funds. In your case, you had $1,371,000 in investments. You had some GICs and bonds, and the rates, just over 1% was the lowest rate, and up to about 3.5% per year was your highest rate. Now, if you take that 5.5 million and turn the page and pay off just 300,000 in liabilities, when you subtract the liabilities from your assets, what you're left is what we call your fund balances. And take a look at this. your fund balances, or you might look at it as equity, has grown from 4.4 to $5.1 million. It's up $700,000. Now, you have three funds: operating, contingency, and reserve. My first point is operating contingency are part of your operating monies. These are unrestricted, but they are your day-to-day monies. But they must be kept separate from your reserve funds because these are savings and they are restricted. And I'll talk about that. So let's see what happened in your operating fund this year. You started with $250,000, which I spoke about in the previous years. Here we present you with your revenues and expenses. Now, I direct you, the left column is the budget that your board set before the year started. The middle column is the actual audited results that we're reporting tonight. And the far right is the actual results for the year before, as well audited. Let's study this, everyone. Your board set a budget of $2.7 million, and they collected that from you. Then $600,000 was transferred to the reserve fund. And then all the expenses were accounted for, including your utilities and personnel and admin. And look at this, you still had $250,000 left over. And that's your money that gets added to the previous total. So we started the year with $250,000, and you would think if you add another $250,000, you should be over $5 million, but your board decided that they wanted to make sure your reserve fund was in good shape. So they put another $230,000 to the reserve fund. So that left you with $277,000 in operating, another $394,000 in contingency. So let's add those two numbers together, and we're almost at $700,000 of surplus. And owners, I represent 600 condos roughly in the GTA right now. And this total of $700,000 puts you very much near the top of condos in terms of their stability and financial excellence, because that's a lot of money that they can carry forward. They can help you. It can be put against future budgets. It can be put into the reserve fund. But really, it's a nice situation because over the last year, COVID has really hurt some of the condos financially. I just wrote an article about that this summer. In your case, you're in really good shape. So the last thing I want to talk about is the reserve fund. The law says you must save money in a reserve fund, or the board puts it in there, and it has to be adequate, enough for the major repair and replacement of the common elements. And the law says in order for the board to know how much is adequate, they must hire engineers or other consultants every 3 years to do a reserve fund study. This is a report tailored just to your condo and your assets. Your last study was done in February 2020. Based on that study, the engineers projected that at this year end, you would end the year with $3,500,000 and you have $4.5 million. You have more than they called for because over the last year or two, you have not had to spend as much. And of course, the board kept topping it up to make sure your reserve fund is strong and sound. So in summary, as I mentioned, your reserve fund is in very good shape relative to the study. And I explained to you how your operating and contingency monies are very, very, very well funded and strong. So hopefully that gives you some comfort. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to open the floor to questions. I do try to remind the owners, as an auditor, I am not allowed to be involved with the board on the day-to-day decisions. So if you have any questions for them on where they're spending money next year, what projects are coming up, I think Brian will give you a chance in other business. But if you have any questions for me as your auditor, this is the time to ask, and I would be most pleased to answer. So please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Stephen. I have a raised hand.
Yes.
Syed, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and the unit number for the record?
My name is Said Ali. I'm the unit owner for Unit 1613. So I have a question for Stefan. Like, you compared the reserve fund and the operating funds with the other condominiums that you normally or you're handling. How about the buildings nearby within Mississauga itself? Do we have any comparison for that?
I couldn't give you specific comparisons like that. Your board might keep studies of that if they have access to that information. But I wouldn't be able to specifically tell you about another specific building. Even if I audited, it would be, it would be privacy issues. But I can compare it to my overall portfolio, which is extensive. And I would expect that the Mississauga condos, to be honest with you, would be a similar presentation or valuation, if you will. I think they all fall similar to what the GTA in total is. You're in a very good position.
Well, that's perfectly all right, because, for us, a good comparison would be to compare within a, segment which is really comparable, because if you broaden it out and sort of bring in Toronto and other areas which are really, really, expensive, and they have a different sort of a strategy. So for us, it's be a good comparison to compare within the Mississauga area, maybe the core Mississauga area.
Yeah. So that's something that you could ask the board, and if they could get access to that, they may do some type of work on that. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Stephen.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Sayed. All right. Rajinder, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and your number for the record?
I'm Rajinder Singh Kohli. I'm owner of 1009. So my
Right.
spending has been very less on account of COVID for the last 2 years. Maintenance spending was very less. There's no maintenance of swimming pool and all those things. Whereas the maintenance charges has been increased. Rather, they should have been reduced.
Yeah, that's a question. That's a question for the board. You can bring that up in other business as to how they set the condo fees. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I just can't answer that as the auditor. Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? And Gad, I think there's another.
Yeah. Natalia, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and your number for the record?
Hello?
Hi.
It's Barbara. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I have a question. I don't know if it's for you or for board. We have swimming pool, and the shower is closed. This is for board or for?
Yeah, that's for the board. That would be for the board. Yes, please.
Okay.
So we'll address your question during other business, Natalia.
Yes.
So do you have any other questions with respect to the audited financial statements? Now is the time to ask them. Stephen will be leaving after this part of the meeting. I have another raised hand, Stephen.
Okay.
Jackie, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and your number for the record?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. My question is for the auditor. Is it possible to give us a breakdown of the general building? The total there, it seemed pretty high. It seems like a large increase. So if it could, is it
So there was no large increase. I can pull it back on the screen. The general building stayed exactly the same. Let me pull it up for you, and then we can talk about. There's your general building. It was 33,000 last year and 33,000 this year. 87 was the budget. You were way under budget.
Okay, it's the budget I meant.
Yes, so you're
It
okay.
seems fairly high.
Right, but they didn't spend the money.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further questions for the auditor? Stephen, I see no raised hands, nothing in the Q&A section.
So if that's okay, then if I could wish everybody a very safe 2021, and to the board who I see sitting there and management, if you need anything, I'm always available. Please reach out anytime. It's always my pleasure to help you all. You have a wonderful condo and you're doing a great job. Have a great night, everyone. Stay safe.
Nice, Stephen. Thanks a lot.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
Steve.
All the best. Good night, Brian. Bye-bye.
Well, those certainly were excellent financial results. You can't have excellent financial results unless you have a combination of excellent management and a excellent and hardworking group of board members. Otherwise, you can't have that. All of which brings me to the point that we forgot to introduce Vijay Mehta tonight, district manager from Dell, working hard to make sure that the condo is great. Vijay, thanks for joining us. Keep up the good work. And of course, Vijay can't do this job all by himself. He needs Bal Chandra Pandya. So Bal, another great job. You're condominium manager, working hard, trying to make sure that everything is done correctly and satisfying all owners' concerns as best as possible. So great job. Great job. As I said before, the auditor represents the unit owners under the Condominium Act. It is the obligation of the owners to appoint or reappoint the auditor. The appointment lasts until the next AGM. At this point in time, I'm going to ask for a motion to reappoint Stephen Chesney from Yale PGC. Stephen Chesney was the auditor that we have just heard from. So this is a motion to reappoint the auditor. Again, the owner represents all of the unit owners. It is therefore the responsibility of the owners to appoint or reappoint the auditor. We'd like to get a motion first to appoint Stephen Chesney from PGC.
Raise hand, Brian. Aurelia, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and unit number for the record?
It's Aurelia Zamaitis, Unit 1713. And
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, you're making the motion?
Yes, correct.
Thanks.
Now we're looking for a seconder on that motion. Can someone please second the motion?
Another raise hand. Travis, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and the unit number for the record?
Travis Hackett, 3108. Second the motion.
All right, thanks.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor and a seconder. We're now sending out the poll. If you're in favor of the reappointment of Yale PGC as the auditor, please click yes. If you're not in favor, you'll click no. This is the auditor.
You get a few more seconds. All right, Brian, I've got 37 in favor, 1 against.
Okay, the motion is passed. Thank you very much. We're now going to item number 7 on our agenda, which is report from the Board of Directors. Who will be making tonight's report?
I'll do it. Junaid Khan.
All right, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. So, dear fellow homeowners, my name is Junaid Khan. I'm the president of the board of Renovation. So I'll take an opportunity to share some updates on behalf of the board and management tonight. So first of all, I want to welcome you guys to the annual general meeting for Bill Standard Condominium Corporation, better known as Renovation. On behalf of all the board of directors here tonight and the management staff, the corporation's auditor, and Brian, our legal lawyer, who's conducting and chairing this meeting, I want to thank you for taking the time out to come to this very important meeting. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome all our first-time new homeowners who have joined this meeting tonight and who has chosen Renovation as their home. As you know, the AGM is one of the most important meetings for the corporation. The auditor who represents you has just presented the audited financial statements, explaining the financial health of your condo corporation. So as you can see, this is a bit of a report card, you may call it, and you can gauge the performance that we have done over the last year. And I'm extremely proud to see the strong performance over year that we have been continuing to provide at our building here. Every year, the corporation is thoroughly audited by your auditor, and the audited financial statements are mailed to you ahead of time. So you can basically look into it, ask the questions. I know there were a few questions raised, so obviously we'll have plenty of opportunity in the other business to answer any questions, concerns you may have. But I want to revisit, in terms of what are our priorities as a board of directors here in terms of our mandate. It's simply 2 simple mandates. First is to protect your interests and the assets of the corporation and be your voice. Second is to build a very strong and vibrant community at Renovation. Over the past several years, the board of directors have been successful in keeping operating costs to a minimum. While we wanted to make sure we provide the quality services that we have continued to enjoy, the board has made every effort to minimize the budgetary increase without compromising the service and still enriching the environment we have come to expect and enjoy. Although we'd love to keep our increase every year to minimal, there are certain aspects we need to take into account. Last year, I want to particularly highlight a couple of expenses that obviously that raised our increase. First of, we lost the Ontario provincial government hydro rebate as of April 2021, and that had a big budget impact. The second piece was we had to obviously increase our contribution to the reserve fund by 3.7% as per in accordance with the reserve fund study. Lastly, we across the board, all condominiums had to face this, which was increase in our insurance cost. On average, we saw an increase of 19 to 25% jump in our condo insurance premium, which obviously affected our contribution to the insurance. So that obviously all coupled with that, led to the increase of 2.5%. But I'm happy to say, 2.5% is still in line with, the consumer price index increases, as well as it's actually lower than the prior year 2020 increase. So if you see the last 5 years, the board, along with support of the management, we have been tried our best to make sure our increases keeps to a minimum, and we still run very efficiently and effectively all operations of the corporation. So at this point, I'd like to highlight few of the projects that was completed prior year. Obviously, there's an extensive list, but I would like to highlight just a few tonight for your information. First off, obviously as a board of directors, we always look at ways and ideas for improving the efficiency of our services in the building. Few projects that I would like to highlight tonight is first off the flow mix project. That's almost near completion. And this will basically provide even hot water across the building and also minimize the cost, giving us almost an estimated savings of $40,000 to $50,000 annually in the span of 3 years. So that's definitely a positive ROI, return on investment for the building. The second one is the energy savings program that we have entered with this company called Enpro. This will result in savings for gas delivery cost, and we'll be working with the Dell. We are currently working with the Dell head office appointed energy manager to look into this project to make sure we can optimize our gas delivery costs. And again, this will result in a lot of savings for the corporation. Also, few contracts, we as a board of directors, we are constantly looking at how do we make sure we get the best bang for our buck when it comes to contract negotiations with different vendors. And every year, as a matter of fact, we take an opportunity and look at all our contracts, which is coming up for renewal, and try to renegotiate for better pricing as well as better quality of service. And obviously, as always, I'd like to highlight a couple of them, our odor control. We were spending $600 a month. From that, we obviously revisited, renegotiated, and now we're paying $200 a month. So you can see, it could be small savings over the year, but over the years, it adds up. Secondly, the window washing, we renegotiate our contract. Obviously, the good thing is we have two buildings side by side, so we can sometimes look into vendor and get a better distribution of in terms of pricing. So we're saving about $4,000 annually for this building for window washing, as well as a few others like telephone, internet. We're saving up to $5,000 a year by renegotiating the contract with the vendors. So just basically, the key point I want to make here is that, as board of directors, we do our due diligence to look at each and every line item of the budget and make sure, we have strong finances in place. And you could see that in the auditors report tonight. The other one that I want to highlight is the insurance renewal. So as I mentioned, across the board, we saw about 25% increase. So as soon as we saw that, we proactively approached, and with the help of our property manager, from Dell, we were actually able to retender our insurance proposal, and we actually saved about $20,000 for the new insurance provider that we switched to. Lastly, we have actually installed a water treatment system in the building that will provide better clean water across the board. So that's also has been upgraded. Some of the future projects that we're going to work on and currently working on, first and foremost, is the party room refurbishment project. Obviously, as we know that there's a lot of new condo buildings coming in and around Mississauga, and we want to be one of the prime condos for investment perspective or living perspective. So we would like to make sure we keep elevating our services and our amenities. So one of the projects that we're going to undertake is to improve and refurbish our party room, the furniture, the flooring, and all the fixtures. So that will be one of the major projects we'll take on. Second is basically we'll be doing an overall assessment of our mechanical equipment. As you know, the building is aging, and obviously with aging, a lot of wear and tear happens. So we'll be looking into hiring an engineer to assess the health of all our equipment and see proactively what can be done so that we don't get into any big malfunction in the long term. We're also going to look into some garage repairs that will be with a shared facility. And also we'll be installing more cameras in the building. Security is obviously a big concern, and it keeps on our radar, and it's one of the top agendas. So we want to make sure we do everything possible, from installing more cameras, obviously improving the fob system so that there's more security going to each of the floors. And also a couple of other things. We're going to obviously work on changing the elevator tiles to give it a new look. And lastly, we're going to tackle the garage ramp heating issues. That should be fixed soon. That's ongoing process right now. And from the security, we're going to actually currently almost finishing the elevator fobbing, which will, improve the security of the overall building. Moving on, I just wanted to highlight, this is some of the projects, but there's obviously, more projects on the go. And as we're prioritizing, obviously, we want to make sure we invest our money in the right areas where we're going to see the biggest, impact for the building. Some of the areas of concern and cooperation that I seek, and this is on behalf of the board I speak and the management, and as well as the residents of the renovation. And this seems to be a continue request to you guys, because obviously condominium living is a community living, so we have to respect each other, and we always have to make sure that this is obviously our home, so we need to treat it that way. So I'd like to request you kindly, let's be more mindful in terms of throwing cigarette butts in others' balcony, because obviously fire issue is a big concern in and around all the condominium buildings. And if it impacts one of the units, it impacts the whole building, right? So let's be respectful of that. Let's also make sure we are properly disposing all the garbage, because that's a big concern. We get complaints from different floors that people are not disposing of their garbage. So let's respect everyone's health here, and let's make sure we're properly disposing all the garbage. Also, our priority is to build a vibrant community here, and make sure this is obviously fun community as well as a safe community. So as I said, if there's any security concerns, please report it to the front desk security, as well as they can reach out to the management anytime with any suggestions you may have. Lastly, one thing that we are very proud to do is we always try to do some community events for the children, for all the residents in the building. Unfortunately, obviously with COVID, this was not possible over the last couple of years. But hopefully, with things improving and going in the right direction, we hope to do something over the Halloween and Christmas for the children downstairs in a safe and health protocol manner. So we'll notify you in due time. Lastly, in my conclusion of the speech, I'd like to address something that has come to our attention. So it has been brought to our attention, and this is for all information of all the homeowners, that it was brought to our attention that an anonymous email was circulated to a number of owners last month and also recently. This email contains numerous allegations which have no basis in fact or in law, and are defamatory towards few board members, and have been made for the sole purpose of attempting to disrupt the smooth operations of our corporation and creating panic among our owners prior to the AGM. The unauthorized use of this private owner emails is a serious breach of privacy, and management is currently investigating along with our legal team to make sure we address this breach. So we're I just want to assure every homeowner on the line that we're going to look into this matter with utmost seriousness, and we're going to make sure that this doesn't continue. In conclusion, would like to assure each and every homeowner and resident that your board remains committed and steadfast in serving our community and protecting and safeguarding our most important asset, our home, and improving the quality of life at Grand Ovation. We will continue to advocate and be the impartial voice at the table, and to protect the interest of all you guys, our homeowners. We ask you, if you have any questions or you want to get further clarifications on any of the matters or affairs of the corporation, please reach out to the management directly to get first-hand information rather than relying on any misleading, baseless, anonymous emails. I would also like to request you to inform the management immediately if anyone or any group is spreading false information in the building, so that we can take the necessary action to address this incident. Lastly, in closing, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the fellow board members. Without their support, we would not be able to achieve this great results that you just saw tonight, as well as the support of the management staff. And lastly, the great, all of you guys on the line and the Grand Ovation community. We all look forward to another successful and exciting year. And with that, I'll pass it to Brian. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Jonah Yed. We're now moving to item number 8, which is the nomination and election. As you know, the condominium corporation is governed by a board of 5 directors. The terms of the directors are what's called staggered, which means every year there's at least one, if not more than one, director position available for election. This year, there are 2 positions available for election. Now, as I said at the beginning of tonight's meeting, in the preliminary notice of meeting, there was a specific provision that set out if you wished to run for the board, if you wished to be considered as a candidate, you were to provide your information to the corporation. If you did that, you would end up into being put into the meeting package, and your resume and mandatory disclosure statement would be included as well. There were 2 people who put their name forward, and those are the 2 existing directors, Sarosh Iqbal and Jonah Yed Khan. They have indicated that they wish to run again. Their term is up tonight. However, if you have not yet put in your name, if you decide that you still wish to run for the board, you can nominate yourself right now or anyone else as a candidate for the board. So as I said, there's 2 positions available. Both positions are for a 3-year term. Other than the 2 candidates' names that I have just set out, is there anybody who'd like to nominate themselves or anyone else as a candidate for tonight's board? The nominations are now open. If you wish to nominate yourself or someone else as a candidate for tonight's board elections, you can raise your virtual hand. I see no hands. We're going to make a last call for nominations. Again, if you wish to nominate yourself or anyone else as a candidate for tonight's election to the board, please raise your virtual hand.
You can also type it in the Q&A section. Brian, I still see no raised hands, nothing in the Q&A section.
All right. I see no hands as well. Nothing in the Q&A section. I'm therefore going to ask for a motion to close the nominations. Can someone please make a motion to close nominations?
To make this motion, you can either raise a hand or type it in the Q&A section. I've raised hand, Brian. Rosa, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and unit number for the record? Rosa, you have been given the ability to speak. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
One 404.
All right, so this is Rosa Fernandez, unit 1404.
All right, Rosa has made the motion. We'd like to get a seconder for that motion. Can someone please second that motion?
Varun Kumar, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and unit number for the record?
Varun Kumar Patel, unit number 1710.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor and a seconder. And again, if you could kindly send out, if you are in favor of closing nominations, please click yes on the poll. And if you're not in favor, please click no.
All right, Brian, I've got 32 in favor, 1 against.
Okay, the motion is passed. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, we have 2 positions available for election to the board. We have 2 candidates. As chair of tonight's meeting, I am therefore ruling that there's been an acclamation, and I welcome back to the board Sarosh Iqbal and Jonah Yed Khan. Congratulations for putting your name forward and on your successful election. We're now going to item number 10, which is new business. This is an opportunity for owners to ask questions with respect to the condominium community. You can ask the questions of management and or the board. We have everybody here tonight. Now, we did have a few questions at the beginning when the auditor was here. You can raise your virtual hand to ask a question, or you can type your question into the Q&A. Now, we did have one question. I don't recall the gentleman's name, but the question was, with COVID-19 pandemic and all of the various facilities that have closed because of the pandemic, why does this not reflect in the maintenance fees going down? So perhaps management can assist here, or Jonah Yed, you seem to have the full review of all the financial figures. Perhaps you could assist us.
Okay, so this is the same question that we have for Ultravision as well. We had notified everybody that the swimming pool was not open, but the operation of the swimming pool was open. Like we had the service people coming and maintaining that pool. We have to maintain the chemicals, we have to maintain the machines and everything. It was not open for the public, but it was maintained. That's what we have to say about the swimming pool, as well as the gym as well. So we can say that it takes money. It takes money to maintain all these things, and we will maintain it. So we could drain the pool, but that would end up resulting in a big cost of cracks and everything. That's why we didn't do it, and we have to maintain that. So we have to consider that one as well.
All right. Could you also give us a few comments on the compliance with all of the various protocols of the Ontario government and how that's affecting the budget as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so like basically, like in terms of if I understand the question from the homeowner, like, why didn't our maintenance fee get, reflected because of all the services? You have to understand one thing, like, there's some fixed costs that we cannot shy away from, right? Like we still have to get the cleaning people in to do all the enhanced cleaning, as Brian just mentioned with the government protocol of enhanced sanitization. There's actually extra cost, to be honest. Like, we have a COVID expense line. If you look at the financials more in depth, we have created a specific line to have like this cost captured. So you can see that there's some actually added cost for the corporation to make sure the hygiene, all the extra cleaning. We had to hire extra cleaning staff to do the cleaning of the common areas, the elevator buttons, like, the gym, for example. So yes, it was closed for a certain number of months, but we had certain fixed costs which didn't go away. We still had to pay all those fees. The hydro, the lights, everything had to be still turned on. So their costs kept running. But at the same time, I'd like to make a point that in my statement, I've highlighted that there's some additional increased cost that we were hit by, like the government rebate, the hydro rebate that was taken away. And that's everyone across the board. The insurance premium jumped from 25%. So when you look at, when we see a sit as a board of director and review the budgets, our budget increase was actually much higher, but we were able to offset that because of the healthy surplus that we had. And that's why you see a minimal increase of 2.5%. You heard your auditor say that, like, a lot of condos are in bad shape. And what he meant by that is, like, we get reports from condo as like, I sit in a few other condo boards, and I'm sure a few other board members also sit. We have to actually increase our condominium, maintenance fees by 4 or 5%. Just to cover this extra additional cost for COVID. So I would say, like, I think we did a fairly decent job in terms of minimizing as much impact to the home. And we're constantly keep looking at in terms of savings and how can we pass those savings through our reduction in our maintenance fees.
Okay, thanks very much. And I think that was it Syed Ali? I think that was his question. Now we have Natalia Walk.
Natalia, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and unit number for the record. Natalia, you've been given the ability to speak. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Now it's okay?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I have to repeat. In this building, there is so many units which are not owners is not living or is not rented or, empty. And for example, these people, they don't use the same amount of water and electricity, obviously, because it's not used, and they are paying the same amount of the maintenance. That means if it's not used water and electricity, how come we have to pay the same? That's my point. I don't know how to explain. Do you understand me?
Yes.
So, I think what we're talking about is this bulk billing? Is that what we're talking about?
Bills, yes. For example, like on one floor, there is 5 units empty, and they paying maintenance, but they are paying and not using water and electricity you have to pay by yourself. But that means gas is less. How to understand that when it's less people living in the building and it's the same amount of the maintenance pay?
Okay, so can we have management or the board address this? I guess the question probably revolves around bulk billing versus metered billing.
Well, regarding the utilities, it is bulk metering as he's saying, right? So everybody knows that as per you use, as per you pay.
Yeah,
So-
gas, electricity, yes, but water,
Each city is based by every individual.
Yes, exactly. So, Natalia, I believe you are asking about the utilities, right?
Electric.
yes,
Electricity.
yes, and water.
Okay, so I don't think you pay for the water, you pay for the electricity one.
No, but it's included in the maintenance water and the gas who is heating the water. That means it's not used the same amount.
Okay, so I think the question here is, there are certain things that are bulk billed, and the ones that are bulk billed are paid pursuant to the Schedule D percentages as for common expenses, and they're paid whether you use them or not. You all share in the common expense as per Schedule D. Other things may be separately metered, in which case the more you use, the more you pay.
Yes, this one I understand.
Right.
Makes sense, obviously, but my point, that means when the condominium has to pay the bill, it should be the bill lower than 1 or 2 years before, because these people are not living. I'm not talking not to pay by them lower. I'm talking by expenses condominium to the Enbridge or to the water. That's
Okay,
my
so I think what Natalia is saying is that if there are less people living in the building,
Yeah.
should be less people using utilities, and even
Yeah.
if it's on the bulk, it should be a lower amount for everybody.
So I can tell you, Natalia, that if you look at the the financial statements presented. Page 7, the actual budget for the utilities was $712,000, out of which, because there are quite a few units which are vacant, the actual cost incurred by the condo corporation was $611,000. So almost $100,000 of savings, which has resulted because of the empty units, and it has also resulted onto a higher surplus as well.
But that means if this one is, you save $100,000, that means isn't going to at least reduce our maintenance, because that's the money.
Well, Natalia, unfortunately, the Condo Act does not allow us the money back, but this money as a surplus, which will definitely help the condo corporation to manage the future increases to get lowered down, because we have a surplus sitting with us and we can use it to offset certain expenses. So definitely you will save a future increase from coming.
Again, at the beginning, I miss because I was on mute, how much increase is going to be this year?
We can't say at this point in time, because we are not working on the budget at this point in time. It will be in near future. But in case if you have any other questions and you want to understand it more in detail, please make an appointment with the management office, and the manager will be happy to explain you more in details, going through line items so that it will satisfy your question.
Not only me, everybody who is owner.
Well, I understand, and everybody who has the same question will have to do the same thing. I can answer you at one person at a time, right? If you have a question, I will answer it to you.
I have also other question for the I think the lawyer, the gentleman, sorry, with the white suit. You were explaining to all people, like whoever got the email for some mess, what like you said, not legal email. How it's possible? Because I met so many people, in elevator, on the garage, they got that email. How it's possible? Somebody got people email. How was possible that? That's my question.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and that's why I mentioned that, currently we're working with it, the management, to figure out, is there somebody, how did it get leaked? Is it somebody internally, or something got hacked? Because as you know, it's very common right now, and Brian can make a comment on that. Brian is also our legal lawyer, corporation lawyer, is also involved in this matter to kind of guide us, to find out, how do we figure out what happened and how did this emails got leaked or hacked? So we're in the process right now to investigate this, and we'll definitely in due time update all the homeowners our findings, and we'll make sure
other things are safe, because somebody had our email, all of owners.
Yeah.
About other things, if they are safe.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So far, we don't think anything has been compromised besides the email address. And I think it's being sent from an offshore email ID. So we will engage whoever is required, in terms of forensic teams, to make sure we can find out what happened, and third party to make sure we can find out what's going on.
Because there is so many.
So I just
Brian can comment on it.
I'm just going to say that we have seen this type of unfortunate issue or situation in a few other buildings where, somebody somehow was able to get the list of owner email addresses and, has attempted to use those email addresses for their own purposes. We do what we can to assist in any type of investigation, and it's a matter of trying to collect the evidence to see who was the unauthorized, the person who was able to obtain, and how were they able to obtain these emails. So sometimes we're able to find out the trail, and if that's the case, we'll move forward with the board's instructions. Other times it's much more difficult, but we are working on that to try to come to an end with this, because it's inappropriate for all owners to have their emails somehow hacked or copied, and someone to use them for purposes which are inappropriate and not within the scope of the Condominium Act. Thank you. We're going to go to Syed Ali, and I think, Syed, we had answered your questions already, but perhaps you have a follow-up.
Syed, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and your number for the record?
I have a couple of questions here, basically. Now, going back to Natalia's question, certainly we need to find out how this breach of security, information security, happened. But if it's going to cost us a couple of years and $100,000, $200,000 to invest, probably it's not really worth it, other than just strengthening our own internal security checks, whatever your protocols or whatever your SOPs are. Maybe just need to beef them up. That is one thing. Because the other way is to address those allegations unequivocally and send it to all the unit owners, saying that this is a false propaganda, and the board members, essentially, they live there, they own the unit. That's what the claim was, right?
Yes.
So they can simply address those allegations and be with it. Why should we spend money, owners' money, essentially, to go after these people? You may or may not be able to succeed in doing that while wasting money and time.
So, Syed, I'm just going to assist here. You're quite correct on both points. Number one, whatever the system that is in place or was in place needs to be tightened up. That's for sure. And number two, as corporate counsel, I would never advise to spend $100,000 or $200,000 on this issue. That type of money is better off to be spent, on the building, on the amenities, on the gym, and not on legal fees. So we always keep in mind before we move forward with any type of work, we give a budget and a legal opinion to the corporation, and they know full well before embarking on anything what the cost would be. And at the price of $100,000 to $200,000, I will tell you now, my advice would be spend it on something that benefits the community, not not legal costs.
I totally agree.
All right, all good points. Thank you. We have Xinghua Tang.
Shingo, can you please unmute yourself? State a full name and unit number for the record. Shingo, can you please go ahead and unmute yourself? You've been given the ability to speak.
Can type in.
Yeah, I'm an owner of that 812. Yeah, I just want to know the email sent to us. Is that the truth, or it's just not really?
I'm sorry. Did you say were the allegations true? Is that what your question was?
They said, okay, the chairman is not does not really own any unit in the condo. I just want to know, is that true or not?
All right. Well, let me say this. The board can answer the questions. I will only tell you this, that every condominium corporation has what's called an operating bylaw. And in that operating bylaw, it sets out specifically what the qualifications are for board members. In some condominium corporations, there are very few qualifications. In some condo corporations, you do not have to be an owner. In other corporations, you have to be an owner, and still in other corporations, you have to be an owner and a resident. So you can have various different type of qualifications. You can always change those qualifications. I will tell you that to move forward with changing the qualifications in your specific case, you'd have to have a vote of approximately 230 unit owners will have to vote in favor, because you need a vote of over 50% of the 458 units. That's very difficult to achieve. So your specific condominium corporation in your operating bylaw says that you don't have to be an owner to be on the board. So perhaps now the board can address the issue of ownership.
Yeah, so I can take that on behalf of the board for the homeowner. So first of all, I'd like to highlight that obviously, a lot of allegations has been made, and obviously unequivocally we kind of deny all that. As a matter of fact, there has been some made up documentation also that's being shared. And as I mentioned in my remarks, that this was done with the whole intent to disrupt the elections as well as the operations of the corporation. As you saw that, our corporation is one of the top six, among the 600 condominiums across GTA. So we are doing what needs to be done as board of directors, and we're performing our duties with due diligence. And it's been proven tonight with our audited statements. And that's basically, as I mentioned, the report card of our performance. So all the allegations is just to derail, the smooth operations of the building. So I highly encourage every owner to basically, not fall into that. As I said, emails have been hacked. So we don't know if it's spams that's being sent out. So I would, request everyone, not to kind of address any of those emails. In terms of obviously ownership, as declaration, as Brian mentioned, there are certain requirements, and one of the requirements in the Condo Act is that you don't have to be a registered owner to be in the board of directors. And for the record, I was an owner in this building up until 2016, and I was on the board elected way before that in 2012. And I have continued on the board providing my service. And as you saw, I get elected because of the work we do, and I have the support of the community, and that's why I continue serving the community.
All right, thanks very much. We're going to go to Hee Jung Nam.
Agent, can you please unmute yourself, state your full name and unit number for the record?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So, so I have like three questions. So first question is, Junaid mentioned that there will be some renovation done in the garage area. Could you explain that more in detail? So I see the ceiling near the parking entrance remain open for years, and I see many cracks on the ceiling in the parking area, and I'm very concerned about them. So is there any real experts monitoring them and any plans to fix them?
Okay, I'll take the question. Thank you for the question.
Okay, so my second question is that I noticed some cracks in my balcony. So the building management came and fixed them. So I just wanna know, like, if the management have any plans to inspect other units as well. So, and the reason why I'm asking is that I was looking at some pictures from some condo listings, and I found that other units with this exact same issue. So, and also my third question is that I just like to know, like, when the recycling bin will be put back inside. So those are my three
Let's
questions.
start with the first one.
Okay. The cracks that we were talking about is the grass seeding cracks. You are correct. We have some works. They were completed a couple of years back, and we have a second project coming up, most probably next spring and summer. And the opening that you were talking about near the P1 near the visitors parking.
Yeah, that's a garbage.
This that is still open because we are going to finish our flow mix project. You can see that new copper pipes running from there. So once the flow mix project is completed, we are going to close that ceiling. So most probably in a couple of months before the winter, we will close it.
Okay.
Regarding the balconies, we are requesting everybody, like all the owners, if they see any cracks or any unusual things in their balconies, just to remind us, just to notify us, so that we can go and have a look upon it. And if we need an expert or we need a contractor to repair it, we will definitely do that. So we have not got any complaints that their balcony has any problems. So we are not planning to do anything on that at this moment, but definitely that is on the future project. Regarding the recycle bins, again, the tri-sorter is not in operation. We don't have any plans, but we can definitely look into that in the future.
Okay, can I just add some, like, on my questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so so what is the reason for the cracks? Because it seems kind of bad, like especially in the P2. Like, is there any structure problem or anything? Like,
well, it's the everything is moving. It's settled, like the building settles, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes like the seasons, the settlement, and everything. This causes those cracks, and that is the regular maintenance thing as well. So most probably we will be taking care of that in the next spring. That's a usual thing.
Yeah, it's not a structural. So it's not anything to do with structural. It's basically like over the years, as with the different weather patterns, like your floor would settle, right? So there will be some areas where the cracks showing up. So it's just a matter of maintenance.
so do you have any plans to maintain them, like, regularly?
Well, once it was done a couple of years back, the corporation had spent almost $100,000 on that, and we have a plan for the future too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also for the balcony, this is just my suggestion. I think the management should review each unit, because even for myself, like I started to see those cracks like many years ago, but I didn't really report the management because I thought that's just.
Let me tell you something. The crack that you had, that's not exactly a crack. That has nothing to do with the structure. That's the aesthetic thing only. So a normal plaster did the repairs. So you don't need to worry about that. I have seen your crack.
Yeah, but like,
That's not a crack.
but you also mentioned that if I leave the cracks like that for like many years, then it could cause another problem, right?
If you expose those the metal things, that the rebars, then yes, that's why it's a very minor repair that was needed. So it's not a crack, it's a chip. And
That's right, but yeah, I was just concerned because I saw other units with the exact same problem, so I thought, oh, maybe it's just from the developer, like how they built it.
No, that's a chip only, so you don't need to worry about it.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We have a question in the Q&A or a comment from Nikita Rel, R-E-L-E. And Nikita, if you could just type in your unit number. Oh, she's 1002. Every year we discuss cigarette butts and garbage issues, and we are unable to take any action. We believe that rentals may cause these problems. Can the board review with fresh thinking as to how this can be improved? So I guess at your next board meeting, perhaps you can address cigarette butts and garbage issues. I can only say that with respect to cigarette butts, that's a major problem in high-rise condos. And it's a very difficult problem to solve because it's difficult to identify the culprits, but I can tell you that cigarette butts are problematic and can be identified by those who smoke, and those who smoke cannot be differentiated between those who are owners and those who are rentals. It's a smoking issue. It's not a ownership issue. Board, would you like to add anything, or management?
Just only one thing, like, from the board point of view, like we take every like in a report, like when the board management presents to us, we take this very seriously. To your point, like, it's a valid point, like, what can we do? Like, I think Brian mentioned, it's very hard to police, like, who's throwing a cigarette butt. We don't have camera on each and every corner of the building, and it's impossible for us to put that. And even if we put it, like, we won't be able to collect. I think it's all collective efforts we need to put. Like, if you're seeing something, please report it. Like, we will take the action, like, hopefully, like, we can find the trail and we can take action. Unless you have something evidence, like, we can go and charge somebody. But if you have something, please report it, please help us. We are trying our best to make sure, like, our personnel, cleaning staff, security, everyone is notified to make sure they put a note and every end of the day to make sure they highlight any such issues. So
at the end of the day, it's a matter of a resident/owner education, and some people absolutely refuse to take the responsibility for what they're doing, which is throwing their cigarette butts off the balcony. Again, management and the board can't do everything and be everywhere. So if this is a problem and the culprits can be identified through, other owners who happen to be sitting on their outside balcony, please report that to security so proper steps can be taken. We have a question from Queen Zhu, and the question is for management and legal counsel. Are there any existing litigation against the Condo Corp? So I will tell you that in every audited financial statement, at the back of the statement, there are notes. And in those notes, if there is any litigation, they would be set out in the notes. So I'm going to tell you that in the audited financial statements, which were presented by Stephen Chesney, your auditor, there were no notes indicating any litigation. Next, Rajinder Kohli.
Jinder, can you please state your full name and your number for the record?
Yes, I did write on that. We see, let there be rejoinder to the allegation which has been put against the management. So let there be rejoinder so that the allegation can be set to rest.
All right. So the comment from the owner, and I see it also in the Q&A, is some of the owners would like some type of response going out to the community with respect to the allegations, advising, whether there is any merit to the allegations or whether they are unfounded. So that's something perhaps the board can discuss with management in having a proper letter crafted to the owners.
Yeah. Thank
Yes,
you very much.
I think we will definitely do that. Like, we'll after this meeting, like, we will definitely discuss this in the next first business for next board meeting, and we'll issue a response.
Thank you. Jin Zhang, Unit 3311. Her comment is the following. I am the owner of 3311. I found the unit has become very noisy when the air condition was turned on. Is there anything that can be done to reduce the noise regarding the air conditioner?
Yeah, sure.
You can invest.
Unit has become
Investigate.
3311. Okay. Yeah, we will definitely investigate that. Just if you can contact us during office hours, we will send the super to have a look upon it.
Thank you. We have another comment here from Hassan Demloj. And Hassan, if you could kindly type in your unit number. His question is the following. I am renting my property for the third year, and there was always a concern regarding humidity during the winter season. Is this something common across the board? Do I need to do something different? So this is humidity in the units during the winter season. What can be done?
Well, there are several things that the unit owner or the residents can do, especially during the winter season when it is extremely cold outside, and we like to have like the temperatures around 30, 35 in the unit. So that is the main cause when we have the humidity and the condensation upon the windows, and we have seen lots of leakages as well. So there are certain areas like when we have nice weather, you can just open the windows and don't use like heavy curtains. Certain ideas are there. Like if you can contact us during the winter time, we can definitely help you on that. Yeah, like a dehumidifier in the units. There are several areas.
Angad, could you note that Hassan Demloj's unit 1105, please?
Yep.
Next, Nikita Rel, dealing with garbage chutes. Her comment is, I believe on garbage chutes we have cameras, so this control may be easier than cigarette butts. Some review of camera shots can be taken once a week or so. So that's dealing with garbage chutes.
The camera in the garbage chutes, like what we are doing these times, when we find that somebody is doing the garbage improperly, we have the cameras in the hallways. We find them. If there is a cleaning fee, then we charge them back. So we are on top of that. Like if somebody is doing the garbage, like if somebody is negligent on that, definitely we are taking care of it.
Okay, thank you very much. From KFAM, and KFAM, could you please type in your unit number? Question is, what is the percentage of short-term rentals in our building? Are there any statistics on that?
Around 30 to 35%, I'll say.
32 to 35%?
That's approximately. I have to go down. I remember exactly.
All right, thank you. And KFAM has advised her the suite is 408. Charles Luck. Charles, please type in your unit, please. Question is, exiting from the garage, there is recently an increase in the number of occasions of cars parking on the left-hand lane directly blocking the outgoing traffic. Should we post a no waiting sign to ensure smooth exit onto Burnhamthorpe Road immediately after embarking on the ground level from the underground garage?
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll
definitely do that.
Thank you, Charles. Suite 606. Comment here from, again, Mr. Ali, Syed Ali. His comment basically is, given that there's excess savings reserve fund, will the board consider reducing the monthly condo fees going forward? He feels his fees are already at a high level in his building.
Well, first of all, reserve fund doesn't contribute to the operating. So we have to see how much we had spent over the span of like 9 months. And from that 9 months, we can project for the next 3 months. And then that will suggest us where we are standing. So after the 9 month, we finish 9 months, we will definitely look at our books where we are standing. And if there is a possibility not to increase much, we will definitely go with that.
Okay, there's a few more questions. One of the questions deals with the email breach. And that's something perhaps the board, if you haven't addressed it in a communication to the owners, maybe you'll do that. Some of the owners tonight expressed some concern as to when it happened and why it happened. And I guess what is the board doing about it? So that's something that should be brought up at the next board meeting. There's another question here about, has the corporation bought cyber insurance? I don't know if that's part of the normal condo policy. I haven't seen it.
No.
Maybe that's something that needs to be looked at. What does it cover and how much does it cost? All right. And then, again, going back to the allegations, I think the board said that they would be preparing a letter to address those allegations. All right. Those are our questions. So unless there are some further questions, I'm going to say that we've gone through our agenda of items and we have completed our business. On behalf of the Condominium Corporation and the board, I would like to thank all owners who participated in tonight's meeting. We couldn't have an AGM without a quorum, and we couldn't have a community without people being invested in their community. I want to thank every single board member, Akin Oladeji, Daljit Singh Arora, Jonaed Khan, Nadeem Khan, Sarosh Iqbal. I want to thank again everyone and congratulate Sarosh Iqbal and Jonaed Khan on their successful election to the board, their re-election. We want to thank Stephen Chesney for coming out tonight. Again, a big thank you for Vijay Mehta for all the work that he does to make sure that the buildings are what they should be and where they should be. Balachandra Pandya, working hard always to make sure everything is in order and doing the best he can to make sure all residents are as happy as can be. Kim Mullins, thank you for taking tonight's minutes. Angad Singh, thank you and HLD meetings for moving forward in hosting tonight's meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, our agenda has been completed. Our business has been completed. As chair, I am therefore terminating tonight's meeting, and I wish you all a very good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you everyone for participating. Have a good night.